What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. I hope you guys are doing well. Today I'm bringing you guys like a history lesson. This was actually Buzzer Beater's video idea, so make sure you show love to Buzzer Beater, say he's awesome in the comment section. Everyone that's a member, I really appreciate you guys. It's going to be on the screen. But yes, we're going to be talking about Knicks draft bust. Some people might actually hate the one player on this list, or they might disagree with me. And there's another one, yes, he's considered a bust, but I thought he has an inspirational type of story, and it's not really his fault. He ended up being a bust. Sadly, he went through some adversity in his NBA career, off the court as well. It's a way to show to you guys that players are human too. You can't buy someone's happiness. You can't buy guaranteed happiness, if you know what I'm saying. We've seen celebrities, of course, that sadly went on, to commit suicide because they're not happy. You literally can't buy people's happiness, like I said, a million times. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Big shout out to Buzzer Beater. Big shout out to everyone that supports this channel. This channel would not be possible without you guys. Anyone that clicks that subscribe button and likes the video, just thank you so much. You guys are greatly appreciated. So no further ado, let's get right into the video, yo. As we're going to be starting off with Frank Ntilikina, and this might get a lot of hate. Don't get me wrong, I understand what Frank Ntilikina brings to the game. He does some little things that don't show up on the stat sheet. He hustles. He plays good defense. But at the end of the day, this man was a lottery pick. He was taken 8th overall in the 2017 NBA draft. This was the draft that had Markelle Fultz #1. There was Lonzo in that draft. There was Josh Jackson. Of course, when you're thinking of the top picks in that draft, of course, there was De'Aaron Fox as well. But anyway, of course, we went on to draft Frank Ntilikina, 8th overall pick, point guard out of France. And I understand he didn't get to run the triangle offense. He was taken to play in the triangle offense. And yes, we didn't really get to see him in that at all. Or we didn't get to see him in that, actually not we didn't get to see him at all anyway in the triangle offense, because Phil Jackson went on to be fired. He was telling Jeff Hornacek run it. He was telling Derek Fisher to run it. And I get it. He plays good defense. But at the end of the day, what have we needed for the past 10 years? Or just pretty much when this franchise has been around? A freaking point guard. We haven't had one since the Mark Jackson, Walt Frazier era, if you know what I'm saying. We had the stint with Derek Harper. But we've needed a point guard for such a long time. And you think about Frank Ntilikina, again, good defensive player, but we're talking about someone who picks up his dribble so early in the shot clock. As soon as he crosses half court, jump shot extremely inconsistent. He's not good at penetrating, not good at facilitating. Frank Ntilikina, he has a lot of deficiencies in his game. If it's his confidence as well, just when you're in the NBA as a guard now, if you want to be a starting guard, at least if you don't have those superstars around you, you got to be able to put pressure on the defense. And Frank has not done that at all on a consistent basis. And I'm a fan of Frank Ntilikina's defense, but he has not proven to be a starting guard in the NBA. And yes, we're talking about how Frank has never gotten an opportunity. Emmanuel Mudiay starting over him, freaking Kadeem Allen, but I believe Frank was hurt that game. You had Trey Burke. You had just all these guys start over him, Dennis Smith Jr. But we never really thought about maybe Frank was just not good enough to start over those guys. Maybe that's just the truth. Emmanuel Mudiay better, Trey Burke better. It's really hard to start someone when you don't have confidence in them running your system, because they're not confident, they're not decisive, they're not going to put enough pressure on the defense. There's a lot of deficiencies in Frank's game on the offense side of the basketball. You don't start a point guard who you don't think's confident really commanding the ship or being that type of leader, if you know what I'm saying. Frank, very humble person off the court, seems like a very good teammate, but sometimes you could be he's just not selfish at all. Sometimes you want to see him be selfish and take over games on his own. We've seen flashes of it, but only flashes. He's been here for a few years. I feel it's kind of gone to the point that you can call him a bust, because it's the same pattern every single year. It's kind of we're accepting what Frank is, at least in a Knicks uniform. Maybe he can go to the Spurs and they can carve out a role. I don't think he'll be a starter, but at the end of the day, his offense is not good, if we're being completely real. And we took him to be this point guard, or at least that's what I thought we took him to be. So, and we've tried him out in so many different positions. If it's shooting guard, small forward, he's this versatile type of player that you could play down the stretch of games, which I would like to see more on the defense side of the basketball. But you just can't have him out there on the court too long, because he's just that much of a liability offensively. His handle wasn't the greatest as well, even though it's improved. But yes, we had huge hopes of this guy being a starting point guard, has the physical tools, but sadly he's been a big-time disappointment, at least on the offense side of the basketball, in a New York Knicks uniform. again, I like Frank. I hate to put him on this list. And if Knox isn't a Knick, like next season, like Knox may be in an updated list as well. You could say Knox never got the true opportunity, but we knew Knox was this project. We gave him all the minutes the first year. Second year, we brought in a Marcus Morris, but you watch Knox, there's no fire and desire in him. But that's a whole other video. I know a lot of people are going to leave comments down below. Again, I like Frank. People could say he's not a bust. He's not a bust. But you also have to think about who do we take like Frank over. Maybe you could say like Donovan Mitchell. People weren't really looking at him, but we took him over a Bam Adebayo. We took him over a Malik Monk. Dennis Smith Jr. didn't really pan out. But there was actually some solid players that we took Frank over. Will probably be on the screen. Again, I like Frank, down-to-earth dude, but he's been a disappointment in a New York Knicks uniform. Now moving on to Michael Sweetney, who was actually the 9th overall pick. Of course, Frank Ntilikina was the 8th overall pick. So Sweetney was actually this guy who was top 10 in scoring, rebounding, like at Georgetown. Michael Sweetney was a beast. Like a lot of people make these jokes, like the sweet jokes, because like he really got out of shape in his NBA career, but those weren't the concerns during the pre-draft process. Like he just had some very bad luck. That's why it's sad that he is considered a bust, because he went through a lot of freaking adversity. It's crazy. After he was drafted by the New York Knicks, like 2 weeks later, keep in mind there's still training camp going on, hasn't played a game yet in a New York Knicks uniform, or at least he's practiced in a New York Knicks uniform. But 2 weeks later, his father went on to pass away, which of course, if any just of course, any guardian or anyone in your life that passes away, that's really tough, especially if you have a close connection with them. And his father was there for him, like, through everything, middle school, high school, always supporting him off the court, basketball. Like, he was just amazing for him, and he just brought such a great impact to his life. And Michael Sweetney was really depressed. Like, this man, he was just so sad, sadly. He went through a lot of adversity, started eating a lot, which caused him to get out of shape because he went through a lot of depression, and depression is a very serious thing. I've known people in my life that have gone through depression, so I just wanted to let you know at this point of the video, if you need help or you feel like you need help, make sure you reach out to a trusted adult, because just because like you feel like you don't feel good, and just like because you're sad or you think you're going through that doesn't make you weak. You're just like the strongest person in the world if you're very aware and you're like, I need to seek out for help. But you're not doing yourself like any good if you're not reaching out for help, if you're going through this tough time or adversity. And if there's no trusted adults, if there's no trusted friends, I really recommend reaching out to the suicide hotline. It will be on the screen, because I've lost someone due to suicide, and it's a really, really serious thing. And just remember, people express love in all different ways. Like many people say love and they don't mean it, like, at all. Or they say I love you and they don't mean it. Like, some people just hanging out with you, watching a game, like being with you in their like presence, that's a form of love. Like, some people just express love in a bunch of different ways, for sure. But I'm sure there's tons of people on this channel that are here for you. Like, you're not the only one suffering. I promise you. Find a purpose, keep yourself busy. But I just want to throw that in there. But anyway, Michael Sweetney was dealing with depression. He was eating a lot. At one point, he just felt like he didn't want to be on this earth, and he didn't want to tell his teammates. He didn't want to tell the organization because he was scared of what people would think. It's really tough to put Michael Sweetney on this list. And now he's running this great organization, helping people out, which is just freaking amazing. And I'm very happy for Michael Sweetney now. He's in a good state of mind, but this is someone who's a beast at Georgetown. He was athletic. He could do a little bit of everything, and it's really tragic that this ended up happening in his NBA career. Now moving on to Frederick Vice. This pick was awful. The guy we picked, Metta World Peace over from New York, of course, played for St. John's. AK-47, pretty much everyone passed on Manu Ginobili, so I guess that one kind of doesn't count. But Frederick Vice, the guy who was known for being dunked on by Vince Carter, literally ended his career. I get it, he had these accolades playing overseas, but a big reason is, like, yes, he was like not the 8th or 9th pick, like as high as like a Frank or Michael Sweetney, but he didn't play a single freaking game for the Knicks. He didn't even come back, like, to the NBA. Or he never even, like, returned. Like, of course, after being drafted, he stayed overseas. He never played a game in a New York Knicks uniform. He was just, there's talent there, but, geez, to take him over AK-47, like the other overseas player, of course, Andre Kirilenko, one of the greatest players in moments with the Jazz, great basketball player, Hall of Famer, of course, and freaking, Metta World Peace is that's just pitiful. It's just awful. Frederick Vice, don't have to talk about it much. Just horrible pick. What's up, guys? I just wanted to add this in here real quick because at the end of the day, these players are human, and this is a big chunk of information that I had to throw in here because I never want to like come across as someone who's making fun of these players. Like at the end of the day, like they are human. Like I said, just because they have money or at one point they had money doesn't mean that's gonna guarantee them happiness whatsoever. But actually, Frederick Vice, when he was drafted by the Knicks, of course, Knicks fans really wanted Meta World Peace, or at the time Ron Artest. So many people booed this pick like crazy, and that wasn't the main reason though. Frederick Vice didn't go on to play for the New York Knicks. Like he went to their training camp and all that. Like of course it really hurt him when a bunch of these people were booing him because it was such a big night for him and he was so excited to play for the Knicks. Like you know how brutal fans could be of just any fan base, like in the NBA or just college, anything like that, if you know what I'm saying, any sport. But yeah, it really hurt him, and he was actually reflecting back on his career like many years later. He was looking back and he was actually thinking about like not wanting to be here anymore, which is definitely a very scary thing. And it just shows like players are human. Anyone in the world is human just because, for example, like Michael Jackson, people acted like Michael Jackson wasn't human because he was like such a god. Same thing with like Michael Jordan right now. Like he is a god, but at the end of the day, he is human and he has emotions, even though people treat him like he can't be touched, like no one could ever stop him at anything. It's just a very big chunk of information. And the GM we had at the time, like we thought he had potential, but we didn't think he was good enough to be brought in and all that. But pretty much, yes, it was a wasted draft pick. Going out there drafting a Frederick Vice, but at the end of the day, he was also affected by the booing of the fans and all that, and it's sadly a very tragic story. Moving on to Jordan Hill, this pick really hurts. Of course, I was too young to watch it on draft night, but we all knew Stephen Curry coming out of Davidson, very good shooter. People had questions about his size, but his playmaking it was out there on the page, like what Stephen Curry brought to the game of basketball in Davidson, the crazy tournaments. He was absolutely amazing, Stephen Curry. He really was. And all the speculation was we're going to draft Curry. Curry wanted to be a Knick, but the Warriors snatched him a pick before, so we end up with Jordan Hill. Don't get me wrong, Jordan Hill was a very solid center out of Arizona, but what have we needed for like such a long time? A freaking point guard. And Jordan Hill really didn't come in the best environment. Like, yes, he was a nice rim runner, good rim protector coming out of Arizona, but we already had David Lee, who was a guy who was really durable, a guy that ended up being a two-time All-Star in his NBA career. And we also had a guy of Eddie Curry there, didn't play much that season actually. But yeah, the pick just didn't work out. He played one season for the Knicks, ended up going to the Lakers, being being a part of one of the like worst Lakers teams. And also we passed on some key guards. If it's Jeff Teague, if it's a Drew Holiday, we even passed on a DeMar DeRozan at the time. So we missed out on this type of talent for a guy that just ended up being a disappointment in his NBA career. Don't worry, guys, I was not going to forget about Kenny Walker, someone who was an absolute beast at Kentucky, known for his high-level athleticism. He actually had a couple seasons at the University of Kentucky, averaging over 20 points per game on very good efficiency. That did not translate to the NBA, being taken with a top 10 pick in the NBA draft by the New York Knicks. As yes, he had a couple seasons of averaging 10 points per game on good efficiency, but you should definitely be doing more as a top 10 pick who was really a high-flying, great athlete, good player at Kentucky. Yes, the only thing that translated was the athleticism, bringing home an NBA Slam Dunk Championship trophy, so he does belong on this list. But I really appreciate you guys for watching. We'll see if Knox ends up being on this list in the future. We'll see what goes on to happen. Thank you guys so much for the great amount of support. This channel would not be possible without you guys. And as always, guys, have a humble day or night. Peace out, y'all.